Good afternoon, boys and girls. It's dinner time. Today we are making chicken spaghetti. I don't know where I got this recipe from. I've had it since my kids were little, and I actually put it in one of our Eastover cookbooks a long time ago. Our kids love this meal, and actually, a lot of my friends, when I make this meal for them and take it to their house, they love it. They said it's comfort food. So it's a great dish for your family, or a dish to take to somebody who maybe isn't feeling so well or just had a baby or something. We're going to start out with putting a 1/4 cup of butter. That's a half a stick. This is a half a stick of butter. We're going to put half of a half a stick. That's 1/4, because 1/4 plus 1/4 equals 1/2. All right, cut that a little bit. All right. Into the butter, we are going to put a 1/4 cup of chopped onions. A lot of, like, Mr. Boss doesn't like onions, and our son Jeff really doesn't like onions, but onions add a lot of great flavor to a dish. And when they cook, they actually, as they soften, they kind of lose that oniony taste that we don't like when they're raw. They're really good in a recipe, so try not to skip the onion. And I've got some mushrooms. 1 cup of mushrooms. I'm going to let that cook up there for a moment. Get a wooden spoon out. Just going to let that soften up. I'll let that cook in there, probably for about 4 minutes maybe. While that's cooking, we're going to take a break from this, and we like to have cornbread with our chicken spaghetti. So I'm just going to use Jiffy Mix, 1 egg, crack it on the countertop, take a look. I don't have anything in the bowl yet, so I'm going to go ahead and crack it. What do we do with an egg? Do we squish it? No, we pull it apart. No shells. All right, so I'm just going to get a fork out and whisk it up a little bit. Action is in the wrist. All right, got that, and I'm going to put in 1/3 cup of milk. Mix that up just a little bit. You know what else is really good in cornbread? You can take like just a little handful, maybe like a 1/4 of a cup, and put like cheddar cheese in there. That's really good. All right, so I'm just mixing it up. It's okay if your cornbread is a little bit lumpy. It doesn't have to be real smooth. All right, that's that. I'm going to stir this up just a little bit. Oh, I should have used my other pan so you guys could see the ingredients better. Oh well, I'll have Mr. Boss come over here in a little bit. Right now we're just making that tender. And I'm going to get out the pie pan and spray it with a little spray. I also sprayed my casserole dish ahead of time so that our chicken spaghetti doesn't stick to it. So I like to make this a little and let it set for about 5 minutes. It actually helps it puff up better, I think. Gives it just a little resting time before you, after mixing it up, and then just put it right into the oven. So we're going to see a little science here. Nice and thick. You see where it's at in the pan? All right. Of course, I washed my hands before we started cooking. Always, always wash our hands before we start cooking. I actually like to take a little butter and just pat it around on the top. Because we all know Mrs. Boss likes butter. I wonder how many videos I've said that in. Silly me. All right. I'm going to give this a little stir. Ooh, this is looking nice. Everything is getting nice and soft, and that's what we want. So I'm just going to set this to the side. Bring my hands off. What are you having for dinner? What's your favorite dinner meal? I would like to know. I would like to know. Okay, so into the pan, I am going to stir in 2. Mr. Bosch, you want to come look at this for a minute, maybe? Maybe from right over here. All right, that was for this. See how this is all nice and tender? So we're going to make what is called a roux. No, I'm not talking about roux on Winnie the Pooh, by the way. 2 tablespoons of flour. Put that in there. You want to let that cook for about 2 minutes so that you're not tasting the flour in your recipe. I'm going to stir that up a little bit. We'll let Mr. Boss look at that for a minute while I go and get 2 cups of chicken broth. Now make sure I measure. You guys are really good at measuring. Have you been helping your parents measure the ingredients for what you make at home? All right, we're just going to let that cook for another. Okay, so you just don't want to taste that. So now I'm not going to pour all of this in at one time. I'm going to put a little bit in. I'm going to stir it up, and the reason for that is I don't want a bunch of lumps in here. It's getting nice and smooth. And put a little more in. Stir it up a little bit more. You can see that this is getting thicker. That's what the flour does. The flour is the thickening agent for our roux. All right. Now I can put the rest of that in. Stir that up. I'm going to turn that up just a little bit and let that cook until it gets just a little bit thicker. It shouldn't take long. I wanted you to see how to make your roux. And so the rest of it I'll make, and then Mr. Boss will watch from over here. Thank you, Mr. Boss. I want to show him a little quick peek in here. I'm just going to let that thicken a little bit, boys and girls. All right. While that's thickening, I'm going to put in, don't need that, I'm going to put in a tablespoon of lemon juice, fresh lemon juice. Fresh always makes your recipe taste better. I'm just a real firm believer in that. And the other things that we're going to put in there is we're going to put in 3 cups of chopped cooked chicken. This is chicken that I took off of from Costco Chicken. Had it in the freezer. And we're going to put in a cup of celery, which I sliced up. We're going to put in some pimentos. You don't have to put these in. I actually think that they put a nice flavor in. We're going to put in 1.5 cans of cream of mushroom soup. I'll save the other half of the can, Mr. Boss, and maybe you can have some cream of mushroom soup with your sandwich one day for lunch. All right, this is getting, whoops, Mrs. Boss. This is getting thicker. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in the cream of mushroom soup. How's school going for you guys? What have you been working on? And have you come up with any projects on your own? Well, we sure did have a lot of fun with all of our projects at school, didn't we? It's amazing how you can be doing art and science or art and math at the same time. But you can. We did a lot of that, didn't we? And I hope that you are continuing that at home. Learning never stops. No matter where we're at, what we're doing, we can be learning. All right. I should be holding onto the handle so that this doesn't go sliding off the stove. If you want, you can put a little salt in there. I don't put salt in mine because there's a lot of salt already in the chicken broth and in the cream of mushroom soup. So I'm just going to put just a couple shakes of pepper in there. I'm going to put my celery in here. Come on over here, celery. Maybe you can chop the celery and the onions and the mushrooms up. Put in a couple forkfuls of pimento. Maybe 3. All right. And I'm going to put my chicken in there. Quick dinner. Get this out of here. Turn that off because it's nice and thick now. Got everything in here. I'm going to bring it over to the counter here. Move a little bit of this stuff out of the way. All right, be right back. Now you're going to use 8 ounces, which is a half a box. Woo, this is lost. A half a box of spaghetti noodles. The recipe calls for whole wheat. Sometimes I use whole wheat and sometimes I just use regular. Mr. Boss and I like the whole wheat because it kind of gives it a nutty flavor. So we kind of like that. All right, into the pan. I am going to get our spaghetti that I cooked. I probably should have put all of that in at one time, just in case I put too much in there. Let's back a little bit of that out of there. All right. Mix this all up. Oh, I guess that was the right amount. All right. Pour this in. Now, you know, a lot of times I'll make 2 meals so I can take one to my daughter, and then I can taste it on the camera for you guys. But you'll just have to take my word for it. This is such a great meal. Take all of this, pour it into my pan that I already sprayed. Ooh, look at how nice and creamy that is. It won't be quite that creamy when it comes out of the oven, but it will be creamy. All this yumminess in here. Woo. Pop it in the oven for about a half an hour at 350 degrees. I'm going to put 1 cup of shredded cheddar cheese on top. So yummy. Ooh, we're going to have a good dinner tonight, Mr. Boss. Ooh. Remember I said that this puffs up a little bit? Look at how much higher it is in the pan now. That is going to puff up very nicely. I'm going to put the lid on top. Pop this into the oven. Since I'm making the cornbread at the same time, I have my oven up to 400. Put the Add in there. I'm going to set it for 18 minutes because that is how long it takes to make the cornbread. And then I'll add more time, another 10 minutes, for the chicken spaghetti. Well, that's it for now. I'm going to get our corn on the cob ready, Mr. Boss. You didn't know I bought that. That was a special little surprise for you. He loves corn on the cob. So, see you guys.